Jesus spoke to them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed with three measures of wheat flour until the whole batch was leavened. Again, remember, he's talking to the crowds. And they would have said, well, we thought he was off the rails with a mustard seed, but now yeast? I mean, Jesus, we use unleavened bread. How can you be talking about yeast? Ugh. But again, we don't take it literally. Again, what Jesus wants us to see is that, yes, germinating or working within us is that goodness of God that brings about greater goodness, much greater goodness. And the amount of flour, 3 measures of flour, would be enough to feed a fairly large crowd. And what does that remind us of? Feeding a fairly large crowd? Oh, yeah. Jesus fed the multitude. And how did he do that? Because again, he saw what others perceived as so little. And he, in turn, gave thanks for what he had. And that's all God needs. And God will do the rest. And so, voila, there was enough goodness for everybody to be renewed in all that Jesus had to offer. And we believe the same when we take into our body this small piece of bread called the host, called the body of Christ, that who cares how small it is? Again, it's the real presence of Jesus that we are taking within ourselves, so that that sacred presence, that treasure within, can be renewed and nurtured and given everything that we need in order then to help others find that source by which they are nurtured, by which they can grow in the goodness of God. Again, that we can connect with each other and that we would share with each other. What does it mean for you to share in the body of Christ? Again, that we share with each other our faith experiences, because again, we do it in a spirit of gratitude. And when we do things in a spirit of gratitude, when we share with each other, it's only going to open us up to many other possibilities, and perhaps, probably, most likely, talking with each other about what it's like not to share in the body of Christ. We can be aware of, oh, wait a minute, but I'm renewed in doing this, I'm renewed in doing that. And yes, it would be so much more wonderful if I could also share in the body of Christ. We make a spiritual communion, allowing again God to renew within us all that helps us to focus on how the goodness of God revealed by Jesus is embedded in every fiber of our being. Excuse me. So just to talk about yeast in another way, this is in chapter 16 of Matthew's Gospel. In coming to the other side of the sea, the disciples had forgotten to bring bread. Jesus said to them, "Look out and be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees." So he's saying to them, like Jesus is saying to us, please be careful what you put your values in, where you get your nurturance, and make sure it's all from Jesus, the source of every good thing in our lives. again, just a few verses later, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Then he understood that he was asking them to be aware of the leaven of bread. He was not telling them to be aware of the leaven of bread. Again, calling us not to interpret things literally. But he's talking about what the Pharisees said. And in another place he says, do as they say, but do not act as they act. And so Jesus is talking about, let's not be hypocritical. Let's, as he states in another place, let your yes be yes and your no, no. And we know that the Pharisees, as Jesus said, they put lots of rules on other people's shoulders. We talked about the slaves this past Sunday, those who were so burdened by the many rules that the Pharisees and scribes put on them, slaves of the Roman Empire. And Jesus came to say, I want you to recognize who you are. And that Jesus says the same to us over and over again. Please see yourself as I see you, as God's beloved, as precious, as cherished. And again, do everything you can to nurture that. Take care of the treasure you are and the treasure embedded within the depths of your being.